Morning you guys, it's Karen and I'm here to tell you about the big tretinoin change that I mentioned in a video the other day. I know that a lot of you are curious. So I'm going to tell you why I'm making the change and what the change is and what I'm going to do going forward. So why am I making the change? I'm making the change because your comments on my kind of tretinoin update video got me thinking, because a lot of the comments said using it once a week is not going to make that much of a difference. And I answered all of those comments saying, I've already tried it more than once a week. And if any of you have followed my tretinoin journey, you'll know that I started off doing it every other night actually. And it was just terrible for me. It didn't work for me at all. My skin did not get accustomed to it. I did that for quite some time and my skin wasn't getting accustomed to it at all. It was at a low level. It was at 0.025%. My foundation looked awful. I wasn't happy with it. And so I stopped it and I moved it a little bit further apart and did it every 2 nights. And you know, I just wasn't happy with it. And I knew that if I did it any more than once a week, my foundation looked terrible and I would just give up on it. And so I had to just do it once a week. And so that's what I answered most of the comments. But you know, I did agree with that. I thought, you know what, they're right. If I don't do it more than once a week, it's going to take a long time to see any results. So that was my first reason for reconsidering. I agreed it's going to take a long time to see any difference. My second reason, and this comes with an apology to you guys, is I had a look at the photos comparing how things looked before I started tretinoin and how things look now. And my apology is I should have really showed you pictures in that last tretinoin update at least. And to be honest, I just forgot to show you guys photos. But I particularly was looking at my eyes because my eyes was an area that I definitely wanted to see some improvement in. And so I had a look because somebody had mentioned that they thought my hooded eyes looked better now than it did before I started tretinoin. And I thought they looked worse now. I think they look worse now than before I started tretinoin. And so I had a look at the photos and they definitely look worse now. In videos and as I'm speaking, it's very difficult for you to tell whether they look better now or worse, because firstly it will depend on how I apply my makeup, but also it's how I express myself. And in videos I'm very, you know, my eyebrows are raised and it's all about how you look when you're not expressing yourself, you know. And when I'm applying my makeup, I can tell when I'm doing my crease colour that my skin is more lax. It's moving around more when I'm using a makeup brush. But looking at the photos, that it's definitely worse now. There's definitely more loose skin on my eyelids. And so that was my second reason for thinking, okay, it's worse. It's not even just the same, it's worse. So I need to step up my game. The third reason that made me want to reconsider tretinoin, will I continue using it or will I just stop using it altogether, is that I was considering having blepharoplasty round about September, October time this year. And obviously it's a surgery. Obviously it's very expensive and not something I want to go into lightly. It's something you may remember I considered a couple of years ago. And it's not something I wanted to have done if it's something that I could resolve with a cream. Of course I don't want to go through surgery if I can resolve it with a cream, but I haven't really given it enough of a chance to resolve it with a cream by using it just once a week. And the final but much smaller reason for considering the whole do I want to continue using tretinoin or not is that you guys know I have an issue with my self-tanner going patchy on my neck. It's mostly the white lines, the wrinkles in my neck that are a problem. And some of that, a lot of it is just genetics, a lot of it is my weight makes a difference to how much sinks into the lines or not. Today they don't look too bad at all, and that's because I put my self-tanner on yesterday in the morning, so it wasn't where I was sitting like that, it was where I was walking around for most of the day with my head up. But it does affect it because I get asked a lot to do a video of how to use a self-tanner whilst using retinoids or AHAs or retinols, etc. And it's very difficult. And what I realised was my self-tanner is more important to me than the issues that may be addressed in some places by tretinoin. And so that was another consideration in my overhaul, if you like, of the tretinoin routine. So those are all my reasons why I thought it's time to change. So I had to think, well, what are my goals? Why am I using tretinoin and what do I want to achieve from it? And why I initially started using it was I thought, okay, I can use it for, you know, to rejuvenate my neck. I can use it to get rid of, I've got these tiny little whiteheads in the very middle of my chin here, way underneath my chin. I can use it for that. I've got some acne scarring under my chin and I occasionally get some breakouts on my chin as well. I've got some large pores on my face here. And of course I've got my hooded eyes and the loose skin on my eyes here. And then I've got some fine lines and crow's feet around my eyes. And so that was my thinking when I started using it. But when I actually think through all of that, let's start at my neck. There's not any, I don't have much of a texture issue on my neck. I may have a little bit of texture problems creeping in with age, but it's nothing that at this stage bothers me too much. My skin is fairly smooth. And like I said, these lines are pretty much genetic. They're not something that have suddenly appeared with age. They look worse with weight, and so that's not something that tretinoin is going to address. It's not going to address the genetic or the weight, and so the only thing that tretinoin would address is the slight bit of texture issue I'm having. And so I'm more concerned with having a self tan, a smooth self tan there. So my first thing was, okay, so I'm not going to put it on my neck anymore. That's it, it's gone from the neck. So then I was like, okay, I wouldn't mind if it took away these tiny little white heads that are under my skin, but actually I barely notice them. Like when I cleanse my face, I can't see them. The only time I see them is when I look in my magnifying mirror that I've got in the bathroom on the side of the shower door. Is if I happen to look in that, I can see them, and even then I have to be close up. So I was like, that would be a bonus. If it got rid of those, it would be a bonus, but it's not something that is noticeable at all. Even without makeup on, I don't think anybody would see them. And like I said, me looking in a normal mirror, I wouldn't see them. It's only close up. The pores that I mentioned on my face, they're not really there anymore. They're barely noticeable because of the vitamin C that I use. That seems to address the pores. The fine lines and wrinkles, again, it would be a bonus if they were gone, but it's not something that, you know how there's some things that really affect your confidence and really bother you? The fine lines and wrinkles aren't something that bothers me that much. The hooded eyes are, the skin on my eyes are, because it affects eyeshadow. It's like I have to raise my eyes to put the eyeshadow on, and then when I drop them down, I can't see it. I can't see my lids. It makes me feel tired. You know, if I take a photo of myself, I have to, if I don't raise my eyebrows, I can't see the eyeshadow. So that's something that bothers me, but the fine lines and wrinkles don't really bother me. And so after doing a bit of an assessment of my requirements, if you like, I realized that it's only the hooded eyes that are really important to me to address. And it would be a bonus if I could get rid of those little white heads in my chin, but it's not essential. So I thought what I'm going to do is I'm going to concentrate on my eye area. And I'm actually only going to concentrate on the upper eye area because this is where the drastic bit comes in. I'm going to use a method called flooding, and flooding actually isn't a method that applies to tretinoin or even skincare. It's actually something that I came across when working in medical research in the hospital. It's applicable to medication, and I've seen it used a little bit in dermatology. It's been used a lot in psychology and phobias, and basically, I'll give you an example of medication that I'm on. For example, I'm on a new medication for migraines, and I am on what's called titration. So I'm given 25 milligrams and I'm taking it once at night for 2 weeks. And then after 2 weeks, I'll take one in the morning and one at night for 2 weeks. And then after that, I'll take 2 at night and 1 in the morning for 2 weeks. And then I'll take 2 in the morning and 2 at night for 2 weeks. And so it will build up. But an alternative method of doing it is just to immediately take the full dose and just put up with the side effects. And within a week or two, I would be used to the side effects. It would just be more unpleasant for those first 2 weeks as opposed to gradually building up. And the same applies to tretinoin. And I actually came across a study discussing this very thing for tretinoin. And you may remember vaguely that I mentioned it in something to do with tretinoin that I was talking about. And I have actually found the study that I was referring to, so I'll link it for you so you can read it. And it was comparing kind of using a gradual method where you start very slowly on a low level of tretinoin and build up, to just going in with using a 0.1% every other day, twice a day I think it was, and kind of flooding your system with it. And it was saying that it's just as effective, if not more so, but you achieve quicker results. And yes, you will obviously get more peeling and more irritation in the first couple of weeks, but you're just dealing with it quicker and you're getting it over and done with in a shorter period of time. So that's what I decided I'm going to do, so that I can hopefully get the results quicker, and if it doesn't work, then I'll have blepharoplasty. There is of course a level of impatience on my side, but I thought, because I'm just going to be doing it in this area, I have been putting it just above my eyebrows and a tiny bit underneath. Then I thought, you know what, I can handle that. Even if it's completely peeling and irritated, that I can handle for a few weeks. If it's all over your face and neck, or even just all over your face, that I can't handle, because that affects your whole face. And you know, I even put in a little bit in the middle of my chin. I've been doing that because, like I said, I wouldn't mind if I got rid of these little white heads under my chin. But if it was all over this middle bit, that would really affect my foundation, and all over my forehead. That's a completely different story. But just in this little area, I thought I can definitely do that as an experiment. You know, I can definitely deal with peeling just in this area and irritation, that I can deal with. So I'm quite excited by it. I'm quite excited to see what the results are, to see how long it takes the results to happen. And I was telling my husband that I was happy to wait longer for the blepharoplasty, and he was a bit confused because he was like, but you were so excited about it, you know. And I was like, I know, but I'm also quite excited about using tretinoin in this fashion and seeing how long it would take. And I was like, because I'd like to try it for at least 6 months. So I have used it for the last, I've been using it, it's difficult to know because I did it pretty quickly after getting those comments. I thought, this is the plan I'm going to do. And I started using the 0.1% that I had in the fridge, but had been in there for some time. Actually, I started using the 0.5% first, and it didn't do anything. So I was like, okay, I don't know whether that one is just inactive or my skin is just used to it, so I'm gonna not use that one anymore. So I chucked that one, started using the 0.1%, and again had nothing. So I think those two were inactive. So I chucked them and ordered another one, and I've been using this 0.1%, I would say, for about 5 days. And I've been using it above my eyebrow here, and then just the tiniest bit underneath my eyebrow. And that's the only place I'm using it, other than I used a tiny spot just in the middle of my chin. And I have now got a tiny little bit of flaking in the middle of my eyes here, just sort of above, just where I put my crease colour. And that is pretty much it. It's a little bit red. I can feel that it's a little bit sensitive, you know, as in when I use my micellar water, I can feel that it's a bit sensitive. And when I put my moisturisers on and whatnot, I can feel it sensitive. And like I said, there's a tiny bit of flaking, but other than that, nothing like I imagined it would be. I really thought my skin would be peeling off by now, because like I said, it's been about 5 or 6 days and I've missed one day. I missed one day out because my skin felt a little bit too sensitive, and I was like, let me just give it one day off. But it's going well. It's going really well so far. And like I said, I'm quite excited to see what the results could be, because from what I've read, from the research I've looked at, I could see results in as little as 4 to 6 weeks. So I'm going to come back and show you some photos at 6 weeks. I'm going to take some photos at 6 weeks. I've diaried it so I can show you. I'm then going to go and do another update at 3 months, and I'm going to do another update at 6 months. I'm going to try and use it every night. I don't see me using it 100% of the time every night, because I am going to use it even when I'm using my self tanner, because I'm going to try and put my self tanner on in the morning, in the daytime, on days where I'm not intending to put any makeup on. But just if ever my eyes feel super sensitive, then I might just skip a night, you know, just I don't want to end up with, or if they felt really watery or anything like that. No, I am going to be cognizant of it being my eyes. What I have noticed is how far it spreads, and I'm always amazed by that. So what I mean by that is I've been putting it in just in the middle of my chin, in about a 2p piece coin size, so about like that. And I've noticed that at the corners of my mouth I've got some flaking, which shows you how far it travels. That's what I meant, how far it travels. And I've been just putting it underneath my eye there, and the flaking is, like I said, in the middle of my eye there, so it's travelled quite a far downward. So I might just start putting it, like sort of pushing it into my eyebrow, and then it will travel down to where I need it to. I still get asked where I get my Tretinoin cream from, and this is the one that I'm happy with. It's the Retinol. This is 0.1% cream, and I get this from the chemist in Andorra. So I'll link it in this video. It's the same one that I linked in that how to buy your Tretinoin from the UK, or your Retin-A cream. But if you're not happy buying it from outside of the UK, you can buy it from an online pharmacy. I can't remember the name of it. I think it was Skin Store. But if you watch that video of mine, how to buy Tretinoin from the UK, I've given you a couple of options in that video. I don't think it's available on eBay anymore. I think that was one of the options. But this is a straightforward process. The only problem is that the site is in Spanish. I think you can translate it. I speak Spanish, so it was fairly easy for me to go through the process. And afterwards I thought, blimey, I could have gone through that and, you know, translated it for you, but obviously it was too late then. I'd already ordered it. But they do Retinoids 0.1, 0.05% and 0.025%, so you can get any percentage you would like. The only thing is, like I said, those other percentages I had 0.025%, which was fine. The 0.5% was fine, but then it became inert, and then the 0.1% became inert. I'm about to film another video on storage, and I'm also doing a test on that as to whether to keep it in the fridge or not, and I've done a lot of research on that. So I'll talk more about storage in that, but I completely trust the chemist, and I have no issues with that, and it arrived with me in about 5 days, so I have no issues. And it was about £20 including postage. I'm pretty sure that was about the price, £20–25, something like that. So I'm completely happy ordering it from them. If you order it in the UK, yes, you will need to have a phone call and get it, you know, talk about it over the phone to get a prescription, and it will be about £100, maybe 80, depending on the strength that you get. And so it's probably a more trustworthy option doing it in the UK. It will be an Abaji prescription, I believe, an Abaji retinoid prescription, but it's more expensive, so it's up to yourself. I've also been asked what strength I think people should start on, and I'm not really comfortable answering that question because I think we're all so individual, and I'm not an esthetician. You know, I just research things, and my knowledge is more in the field of healthcare, and so the only way I would answer that is to start at the lowest, at the very lowest, because I started on 0.025 and my skin was still irritated, or still peeling, very, very dry and peeling. And, you know, retinol is a milder version than retinoid, although somebody actually told me that retinol was much stronger than Retin-A in a comment yesterday, which is just, that is factually incorrect. Retinol is not as strong as retinoids. But for me, the retinol from The Ordinary was more irritating to my skin than retinoid, than a retinoid. It's all very complicated. So I think you just have to go with the lowest of anything. So if you want to try a retinol, go for the lowest strength and use it once and then wait 3 days and see if anything happens to your skin. Just go with the lowest of anything until you know what your skin does, and then, you know, increase it very, very slowly. That would be my advice, I guess. So I hope that that was interesting to you. I hope that you're as excited as I am to see if this works on hooded eyes, because I did that. I started a series on hooded eyes, you may remember, and I was very excited about that, but there was so much research and I never got to stage 2. It's still there on my list. I still intended to do it. There were so many things I wanted to research for hooded eyes. But this is still in progress. And Plexer, by the way, it's not something I'd recommend because it did nothing for my eyes. I can tell you now, years later, that I feel that it did nothing at all. And I feel that it had no benefit for my hooded eyes whatsoever. So yeah, I hope you're as excited as me, and I will tell you what's on my face. Lancome Teint Idol Ultra Foundation. I have got on my eyes a pigment by Gosh that I will list in the description. On my cheeks is the Ice Lotus Blush by Clinique. Stila Liquid Lipstick in Caramello. And these earrings are from Next. Aren't they pretty? You can't really see them because my ears kind of, the earrings face that way as opposed to that way. And that's everything. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you soon.